This is the story of Grant Walker, a seasoned mechanic with silver in his hair and oil in his veins, whose quiet life in the town of Fairgrove was appended by a single moment of kindness and a young girl in a wheelchair named Elena Moore. Grant had spent 3 decades running Walker's Garage, a modest shop passed down from his father and grandfather before him. The red metal toolbox still sat in its place of honor beside the workbench, the name, Russell Walker, faded but legible on the side. It was a slow Tuesday morning when he first noticed her, Elena, sitting across the street under the old oak tree in the schoolyard, watching her classmates play basketball with an aching kind of intensity. At first, Grant tried to focus on the Buick in his bay, Mrs. Lennox's tired sedan that needed a new timing belt. But the girl's stillness, her clenched jaw, her small hands gripping the sides of her chair as if they were lifelines, those images wouldn't leave him. Later that afternoon, when the other kids had wandered off and Elena still sat there watching the empty court, Grant wiped the grease from his hands and walked across the street. He crouched to her eye level and said, "Hi, I'm Grant. You like basketball?" The girl startled, then nodded. "Used to play," she replied, her voice small but resolute. Before, she trailed off, gesturing toward her legs, wrapped in outdated braces that looked more like torture devices than medical aids. That night, Grant couldn't sleep. He pulled a dusty prosthetics manual from the local library, blew off the years, and began sketching. He'd fixed everything from tractors to muscle cars in his life. Maybe it was time to try something different, something that mattered more. Over the following weeks, Grant poured himself into research, prototypes, and failed attempts. He reworked suspension components from motorcycles, adapted aluminum tubing from old aircraft parts, and taught himself biomechanics from books and online forums. The first prototype collapsed under its own weight. The second couldn't pivot. The third leaked hydraulic fluid. But Elena never stopped watching, never stopped showing up. One day, her mother, Camille Moore, a nurse working double shifts at the county hospital, came to thank him. "Elena says you're building something for her," she said. "I's tired, but grateful." "That means more than you know." Camille reminded him of someone too, his daughter, Abigail. She would have been Elena's age if leukemia hadn't taken her so young. He never got to build her the treehouse she wanted. But maybe, with Elena, he could build something better. By winter, Elena had become Grant's apprentice in all but name. She learned fast, asking about torque ratios and weight distribution like it was second nature. Camille often joined them in the evenings, bringing sandwiches, medical insight, and quiet encouragement. Together, they transformed the cluttered garage into a workshop of invention, a place where engineering met hope. Then came the test day. Elena stood, wobbly, cautious, on the prosthetic legs Grant had built from scraps and sleepless nights. Hydraulic-assisted joints whirred softly. Camille held her breath. Dr. Ben Chow, a local physician who'd started advising Grant on medical aspects, monitored her vitals. And then, Elena walked. Her first step was tentative. The second was steadier. By the third, she was smiling. By the fifth, she was crying. And by the time she reached the garage door, she was running. Camille covered her mouth. Grant just stood frozen, his heart pounding louder than any wrench had ever clanged. But what none of them knew was that someone else had been watching. Across the road, a luxury SUV idled with tinted windows. Inside sat a man in a tailored suit, eyes fixed on Elena. A camera clicked. A video uploaded. And by morning, the story of the garage girl who walked had gone viral. Grant's quiet garage became the center of a media frenzy. Local news vans, bloggers, medical professionals, and strangers from around the country came calling. At first, Grant waved them off. He hadn't built this for fame. But then came Jordan Langston. Langston was CEO of Langston Biomedical, the largest prosthetics company on the West Coast. He arrived in a private jet, stepped out onto the cracked asphalt of the Fairgrove airstrip, and walked straight into Grant's shop. "I've reviewed your designs," he said, pointing to a set of schematics spread across the workbench. "You've done something incredible here." "I built it for one kid," Grant replied. "And now you can help thousands." Langston made an offer, a partnership, not a buyout. Grant would keep creative control. The lab would stay in Fairgrove. Langston would provide funding, staff, and infrastructure to scale Grant's work into something global. Grant wasn't sure. He turned to Camille, to Dr. Chow, to Elena. They all said the same thing: do it for the kids still waiting. The Langston Walker Institute was born. The old Fairgrove textile factory was renovated into a cutting-edge research campus. Grant's garage was preserved as a museum and workshop hybrid. Elena became the project's youth ambassador, speaking at conferences, sharing her journey, inspiring others. Camille joined full-time, managing clinical coordination. Dr. Chow led the medical integration team. Together, they made the impossible feel routine. And then the letters began arriving: children in Argentina, veterans in Oklahoma, a girl in Kenya named Amara who dreamed of dancing again. Each week brought new challenges: joint calibration in high humidity, material shortages, lawsuits from competitors trying to shut them down. Global Orthotech sued, claiming patent infringement. But when Grant's designs proved not only original but better, their case collapsed under the weight of public support and medical evidence. Children around the world posted videos using the hashtag #IStandWithWalker. Then came the breakthrough. Dr. Chow discovered that Grant's hydraulic system not only restored movement, it reduced phantom limb pain by 60%. The implications were enormous. Langston Biomedical secured new patents, and suddenly they weren't just changing lives. They were changing medicine. 10 years later, the Langston Walker campus served millions. Mobile prosthetics clinics operated in developing nations. Engineering interns trained alongside rural mechanics. Kids once told they'd never walk now ran marathons. And in the heart of it all stood Grant Walker, still in his grease-stained coveralls, still tinkering, still smiling whenever he saw Elena sprint across the yard. One quiet morning, Elena, now 22 and head of the Walker Pediatric Mobility Division, sat beside Grant on the bench outside the old garage. "Remember that first day?" she asked. "When you sat under the oak tree," he replied. "I thought you were just a mechanic." "I was. And now?" Grant looked around, the buildings, the families, the playground echoing with laughter. "Now I'm just a mechanic who believed someday could be today." They sat in silence, letting the breeze speak for them. Behind them, the wind chimes made from Abigail's favorite bracelets sang in the breeze, a melody of loss, healing, and possibility. Across the yard, a young boy fitted with new prosthetics took his first step. Another journey had begun.